the first episode of Flavorcast. Well, episode one. And this was Ryan's idea. I'm going to put this all on Ryan. It was him,
This is my idea.
his idea. Me and Ryan actually did a podcast about 10 years ago, to varying whatever. But yeah, with technology, and Ryan just came up with the idea. Let's do a podcast, and this was just a few days ago, and here we are doing it.
Yes, sir.
I'm very excited to have our first guest. If you don't know Ryan, Ryan is Ryan Benner from Savor the Flavor of sorts. You may have seen his newest video, which is that's the wrong thingy. Which is great value. But he also has made the flavor videos. I think he's up to 5 now. Is that right? Or is it
There's
six?
six of them right now.
And we're working on
and
number
then-
7.
Yes, we're working on the 7th one. So I've had about 10 full videos overall. The 7 of them are the Save the Flavor videos.
But yeah, Ryan has been my buddy for a long time, and a Blade nerd for even longer. So
He is
very knowledgeable of the things, and he's an entertaining guy. With that, if you want to talk a little about the show and what we're doing here today, Ryan.
So we thought it'd be cool, just kind of have guests on that don't normally get the spotlight that I kind of think should. And I think the guest we're going to have today is just a prime example of that. Somebody that is amazing skater, puts out amazing sections that he films by himself. I think he almost exclusively skates by himself, so he's got a very unique perspective. And he's kind of flown under the radar, but he's incredible, incredible skater, a really well thought out kind of how he approaches his sections and the music, and he's also an artist, and so I just admired his skating for a long time, and I thought he would have a unique perspective, and so we wanted to talk to Nathan about that and kind of his history in skating, and just like how he does, goes out and skates by himself, and how he has the motivation to do that. It's really foreign to me. So
yeah, it's very intriguing to me. I definitely appreciate it.
It's a unique dude to talk to for sure. So I thought it'd be
a
cool dude.
Yeah, I actually took a deep dive right before this, and man, it was a good binge. So I would highly recommend all the people out there to take a Nathan Bentley binge, because you're going to see something different pretty much.
Yeah.
Almost every other clip, basically. It's like it's just super inspiring, and to do it by yourself is just phenomenal.
Amazing.
So
yeah,
let's stop talking about him and start talking to him, shall we? All right, let's bring on Nathan Bentley. There he is.
Hey.
Here, I'm back.
Nice. So Nathan, how many years have you been skating? What year did you start?
So technically 98 or so. I don't really know exactly when I started. Tree, I was rewatching your Jump Street, and kind of like you, I started on my mom's rec blades, and before even I had a real understanding that like action sports were like a thing. And, I lived in the woods, so it was just like put some plywood on some 2x4s and put on mom's rec blades and send a super sloppy air 12 inches off the ground, and you're thrilled. But pretty soon after that, I got a pair of Swindlers, the gray ones with the like light gray frame.
Yeah.
Those things were gorgeous. And Ryan, I know you mentioned your first skates were Dirks. I think they're like the same.
Yes.
boot.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. I got them at like a used skate store. And I broke my collarbone on those skates too.
Yeah. full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same. I got mine. I think it was like an Olympia Sports or like Sports Authority or something. Back when you could literally get rollerblades anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it was kind of like it was in the air. Like people were still doing it. My 2 best friends growing up, Gabby and Cam, we were 8 years old, and we all kind of got into rollerblading. And I think it was 99, but my timeline might not. I didn't, deep dive too hard on the timeline. But whenever Tony Hawk Pro Skater came out, like everyone was just skateboarding. And even I got a board, and just kind of like at that point I had no idea of like blade culture or blade media. I hadn't seen anyone ever rollerblade. I hadn't seen videos, magazines, anything. And I guess really to sort of fast forward to when things really started to click, was 2002. So basically 4 years of like feeding this sort of like obsession with rollerblading through, playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater. And
So at 4 years, you did 4 years where you never saw any skate videos, like.
So you were like in your own like microcosm of skating with no outside influence?
Yeah, literally. And
Incredible. Wow.
well, there's this really interesting thing where there's this kind of like before, this is like 98 to 2002, where really before the internet, and like,
Yeah.
So things are like, we still have that kind of like oral tradition of like, so there was this guy, Andreas, and I live in like small town New Hampshire, like nothing. It's amazing we had a skate park, to be honest. But there is like this like stories, and I don't know if I ever even met him. At this point, it's like myth. It's like the idea of a person that may have been conjured strictly from the stories, or maybe I saw him one time, but he looked like the Senate angel, I think, like wife beater, tucked in.
The keychain, like the keychain thing we used to get in the shirts. Yeah.
So, but the whole thing was like Andreas jumped 3 trash barrels off the kicker. So it was like basically like the first 4 years of me rollerblading was like, you have to be able to get to the point where you can jump 3 trash barrels off the kicker. It had nothing to do with like whatever videos were, whatever the pros were throwing down in videos at the time. I mean, I'd probably, I don't think I didn't learn how to grind until 2002. I mean, I did like front sides on the box, but the first soul grind I did was a sidewalk in my friend Cam's brother's ST8s. And at that point, like by this time, like no one was rollerblading, but like people had leftover skates from that sort of like quick flash in the pan around the millennium. Yeah.
I have a similar kind of, because I started in 98 also. Well, I mean, that's when I got aggressive skates. I mean, I was skating before then. I had seen Airborne. But like when the boom of aggressive skating happened, I guess probably like 96 would have been like it's real big, when it was really popular kind of. And then 97 came and 98 came. And I remember going to middle school, and like our family moved, and we went to a new school, and there was like a group of 30 rollerbladers when I was in middle school. And that 7th grade year, and I was like, this is awesome. So I got rollerblade dirks, but then like the next year in 1998, they all quit. Like there was no group after that. They had all quit. Like like literally right as I started. So I relate to what you're saying. Like,
there was this
about
crazy...
how quick that happened. Like it really was like a year passed, and then everybody just all those kids just quit. It was crazy.
And I genuinely, at least maybe it's just my lens, like how I saw it happening, but I really think it was that like THPS like boom, and like everyone was just like skateboarding. I mean, video games like impacted our entire generation. Like there's no way around that. But by the time I got into 2002, when I found my first blade media, which I got this Daily Red, and I obsessed over it. And at this point, like when I got
nice.
It was the first time I'd ever seen rollerblading documented in any way. And man,
wow,
like, it's so wild. And like it was, people talk about it all the time on podcasts, like how it's almost like sort of like it almost like pushes you away in a way, because it's like I could never do any of the things anyone's doing. And then coincidentally, same year, I found the USD tour video.
Oh, cool.
At a skate shop in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And I was actually with like my friend. I was 12, and I was with my friend and his mom, and they bought it for me because they like.
Wow.
And I think my mom paid them back at the time or something.
Yeah.
And the skating in this was crazy. But
it's very good. That's very good. Yeah.
Yeah, but as like a 12-year-old, I don't know, the tour antics didn't do it for me.
Right.
Like maybe
Yeah.
I was too like reserved. Oh yeah, the
Yes.
Richard.
Oh yeah. I definitely was too. I was like a very like goody two shoes type of kid. So
Yeah.
a lot of that like partying and stuff. I was like, these are some bad kids.
Same though, same. I was like, I just want to see skating and like
Right.
at that time this was the only reference I had for rollerblade videos, and I had seen like one or two skateboard videos. I'd seen the DC video and the Zero one of the Zero videos.
Yeah, I think.
But those were just like traditional format, like skate section, intro, skate section, skate section. And so like I was much more drawn to that, like rather than this sort of like montage tour antics and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that is kind of a different type of video to get for your first video, because it isn't really that traditional of a video. Like, yeah, it is like a tour type of video, kind of like the Heat video was. So that's interesting. Like the first video I got was in, I guess, 99. It might have been 98, but it was Elements 2, which was a really classic, section by section video. So I was like,
yeah. I think I saw, did Mushroom Blading do a commentary? Was that like a
they might have done Elements 1.
Okay.
I don't know if they did Elements 2. But I know Latimer has Last Section Elements 2, and I think he has Last Section Elements 1, and he uses the same song in each section, which is like so weird to me. But I
wonder if did they have like rights to it or something? I wonder, like maybe
I don't know. Maybe I would love to know like why he chose to do that. Actually.
Oh yeah. Okay. So that was also a Joe Navrin video.
Yeah.
I didn't put that together.
Yeah, and I can relate to what you're saying. Like we watched that video, and like it was. I mean, it was more motivating than not, but it was overwhelming. Of like, oh man, I can't believe that people are already like doing this stuff. Because all I had seen was like Airborne, which was and then seeing that, it was a little discouraging. And also growing up in Dayton, Ohio, where I'm at, we had the Ohio Surf and Skate team. So it was like Omar Weissong, Ben Schwab, and his brother John were all on a skate team, and they were incredible, like amazing. They have some videos out there.
Guys were from Ohio. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they grew up like right near me in Dayton, Ohio. So they were some of the best skaters, period, at that time.
Oh yeah.
22 years ago or whatever, 23 years ago. I mean, it's amazing to still watch what they accomplished, but it was very like, wow, I'm never gonna like be this guy. Like I don't have a chance. I mean, like, but I mean, ultimately, it was still more motivating than not. But, like, I relate to what you're saying. Like, it was very like inspiring, but also soul crushing.
Yeah, totally. Man, that's why. So you guys really have always had such like the Ohio, kind of that whole, I don't know if you like Rust Belt and like Great Lakes region is like really has always been such a stronghold for rollerblading. Like even during the dark days.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I want to talk to you, because I'm almost the opposite. I feel like the path I've taken in skating is like I've always had this big, I wouldn't say big crew, but I've always had a crew of people to skate with. Throughout all these years, like there's always been somewhat of a scene in Dayton, Columbus, and Cincinnati, just that area, Cleveland. There's always been people. There's always been like lifers, right, that have skated, and so that's why it's so interesting to talk to you. And I mean, when you started skating, and you'd seen that video at that time, were you skating with people at that time, or did you have a crew at that time, or?
I had a crew, but I was the only rollerblader, and that literally that trend prevailed all the way until I went to Boston. And even at that point, I didn't actually have a crew of rollerbladers, but I started running into other rollerbladers at that point. But yeah, for the entirety of my time in New Hampshire growing up, from beyond the early days when kind of everyone's older brother had a set of old rollerblades, and but beyond that point, like I went through all of middle school, For like, there was like one or two dudes that like kind of stuck with it through like 2002 maybe.
Yeah.
But by the time I got to high school, so where I grew up is such a sparse population density that I went to what they call a regional high school. So there was 8 or 9, maybe 9 towns that went to one school. That's how.
Oh, wow. That's how remote you were, huh?
Right. And so in that entire region that coalesced into this one high school, 8 or 9 towns, I was the only rollerblader. And I will say one caveat, I got really into skiing during high school, and I had 2 guys that we were like really tight, and we do all the local competitions skiing. And for one summer, but they did, Spencer and Simon, they got into rollerblading for that one summer. And
Yeah.
but outside of that, it was like I kind of had this like sort of like token rollerblader. Like I would go to
Yeah.
all the local skate parks, and I would get hazed bad, but because I was like the only one,
Mhm.
like it was sort of like they'd make fun of me, but it was like accepted. They're like, that's just the guy that for some reason is doing this.
Did you feel were you sad about that, or did you feel outcasted by that, or like how did you feel about that at that time? Because I mean, growing up, I'm thinking you're in high school right at that point.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's such a developmental kind of
Right.
phase in somebody's life where like it would. I mean, speaking from my experience, that'd be hard on me. Like I would feel like an out. I mean, even if even if I knew they were my friends, I guess I would feel like kind of,
Yeah,
just I'm outside. And how did you feel about that overall?
it was a little odd. I think when it really became like when it really was most prevalent was like all my friends skateboarded. We had a couple of BMX guys. But when you're at the park, like the park was our extracurricular. We'd go there every single day after school. And people start playing skate, and all of a sudden it's like everyone's doing this one thing, and I'm just off somewhere else in the park doing
Yeah.
my thing. So like when that started going down, we occasionally I'd try to like get in on the game of skate. So if like someone did a blunt stall on the skateboard, I'd do a fish brain stall. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But like
Wow.
it's a gimmick, and it's not really a solution.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Like, did you ever during that time were you ever like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I want to skateboard. I want to try something else, or was it just like, what made you in particular at that time stick with rollerblading?
Well, so interestingly enough, I basically kind of did both forever. Like, even like through my early 20s, I kind of did both, but rollerblading was like that's the one for me.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
that's the one where I focus my energy. Like I would occasionally like, just take my skates off and like, you know, get on a skateboard and play a game of skate that way, or like or
Mhm.
just like one day like decide that I want to have a park day on the skateboard. But like that was just sort of like not serious. Like it was just sort of a thing to do. I just like doing, being active and doing stuff on wheels. So
Right. Yeah, because I had a lot of friends, you know, like there were friends after when I was talking about like '96, and I had some friends after that skated, kind of when like Brain Fear Gone came out. I was lucky because I had a friend down the street, my friend Ben Corwin, and I'd skate with him a lot.
mhm.
And there were people that would come into it and get out of it, and because I do think they did kind of feel outcasted by it, and so it's just because of the low numbers, and it's just hard to like.
Right.
So that's why it's
And Nathan,
interesting. You're kind of the exception to that, which is really interesting. Like, because you kind of bucked that trend and kept skating, which is crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm curious, Nathan, how like when you did skate with other people, how were you, were you accepted, or like did you feel like a part of the blade community when you did encounter other skaters?
Uh Early on in New Hampshire, honestly, no. Like the rare occasion I'd run into someone, it was usually like there's this weird like turf, like kind of like territorial, like, who's this other rollerblader? And
I hated that shit, man.
Yeah, and like, I'm not gonna talk to him, and I'm gonna try and one him up or something.
Mhm.
But I mean, to be honest, like I ran into so few other rollerbladers like before I moved to Boston. It's almost like inconsequential. Like I don't know. It's kind of pretty wild, to be honest. But
it is wild.
yeah, I mean, it was bad. Like, I mean, you guys know. I mean, we all came up through that like really like dark period. I remember one time I was with, my brother and my friend Cam, who that was like my skate crew, and they skateboard, and we went to this indoor park. This was my senior year of high school, I think. This indoor park called Red Alert, when it was like a skate shop, and it was core. And we walked in through the door, and I'm with my brother. He's got his board. I'm with my friend. He's got his board, and I had the Deshi CH1s.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I love those though. But yeah, the kid looks at my brother. It was like a scene from like a movie when they're like letting people into a club. He's like
the record scratches.
Yeah, like go on, and then he's like, whoa. You can't bring those in here. And I was like,
oh my god.
I was like, excuse me? And he's like, he literally goes, oh, what was it? He goes, yeah, no Walmart boards, no fruit boots, no scooters. I was just absolutely just livid. Like,
yeah.
So
wow, I'm surprised that didn't like pop off or some shit.
Yeah, we left. I mean, my friends left with me, which was admirable, I suppose.
Yeah. Dude, funny story. Like recently, this was like a couple years ago. In Cincinnati, there's a mini outside of the skateboard shop, and some roller skaters hit it. And China had come down to visit, and she was skating it, and a few of our other friends are skating it. And this guy walked by like this, probably like mid-40s or something, like, so definitely from that era.
Yeah.
And he's like fruit booters or something. And he kept walking. We're like, whatever. And he came back, and he's like, I'm sorry, man. He's like, that term's really just. He's like we shouldn't say that anymore. I'm really sorry. He like apologized.
That's all. See, that's.
And I was like, oh, dude, it's fine. Like,
he came back later, so it like ate away at him. I respect.
Yeah, it did. Like, he actively walked away, thought about it, and was like, I shouldn't say that.
Right.
Like, homophobic bullshit. And then he like came back and apologized. Yeah.
That's
was
cool.
crazy.
Yeah, that's redeeming.
But yeah, what you're saying, like it happened a lot. Like I remember I was at skate park by us. I was probably like 16, and I was waxing a ledge, and all of a sudden somebody pulls me like this and turns me around, and then grabs the front of my collar, and he's this guy, and he's like just cussing me out about waxing stuff. And I was like, oh my god, this guy is gonna like kill me. Like I was like in my fight or flight mode about this guy. And then he didn't end up doing anything. He like got in his car and peeled away. But like that stuff at the end, that stuff in the 90s, like that it actually was very awkward to be a rollerblader.
Oh
yeah, it was. Sure. Like we didn't like imagine that stuff. Like it happened. Like I've had a lot of examples and heard a lot of stuff about that time period. Like it was very to be a rollerblader, like you kind of had to just watch out. Like you didn't know what people thought, and it was definitely like a little bit of a dangerous time.
Yeah,
so it's interesting to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, it was like I kind of always treated it sort of like a secret identity. It's like I don't think I started actually telling people I rollerbladed until like 2016. Like literally.
Wow, really?
I literally think, it would come up in passing. I'd just be like, yeah, I skate. And people are immediately like, oh, sick. And it's like.
Funny, man. My wife's cousin came up to me, this was years ago at a family function, and he was talking. He's like, yeah, you skate. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, so you do all three. You do the skateboard, the bike, and the rollerblades. And I'm like, no, I just do the rollerblades. Like I don't know what got in his head that he thought that like it's funny to think like like what was he thinking, like, oh, that's all the same thing, or if you know how to do one, you know how to do the other. like it's kind of interesting to think about,
Yeah,
like what would cause you to think that type. It's just interesting.
maybe just like the way that action sports in general are so like publicized now, but
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild, and it's amazing how much has changed just in the 2-3 years since COVID.
Yeah. Mhm.
Uh, it's been like astronomical, the difference, in my opinion, what I've seen. But
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I know I mean, just anecdotally, what I saw around me was, I saw a lot of people wreck skating and things, and I still see that. I still see every now and then, people. I have a bike path like I can see out of my window at my house. It goes down a hill to a college, and yeah, I see people skating all the time. And like, I am convinced like that stigma it is dead. I mean, um, just the way and I think it's really probably the last 5 years have really proven that to me because I see kids. I saw a kid at the skate park and they always, kids always ask you like, is that hard to do or how'd you learn to do that or whatever, And this one kid came up and he wanted to say, is rollerblading hard? But he didn't even know the word rollerblading. So he just goes, is that? I'm like, rollerblading? He's like, yeah, is that hard? Like he literally didn't have any, he never even knew the word for it, which was like, whoa, and that really like kind of threw me for a loop.
yeah, it's wild. I do think most people, or at least most people that I run into, usually just call it roller skating. They don't identify the difference. But yeah, I mean, I have no hard feelings. I had such a good crew coming up, and we kind of in the early days at the hometown park, we crossed paths with this one guy. He was like 2 years, I think, older than all of us, and my brother was a year older than me. But Adam Hunsacker, and he was like this super quiet guy, and he just started coming to the park one day, and he was like just going after it, like repetitive, like just learn, and he was such a talent, and he was the first guy we knew with a camera. So like he was sort of this pivotal moment for me, also in like sparking the interest of making skate videos. He made our first skate video and like put it on like he recorded over like a recording of like some like Olympic event that like his parents had made,
Yeah.
Like you turn on our skate video and there's like 20 seconds of like static like Olympic free skating or something.
We did that also. Yeah, we had the super big like VHS camera.
Yeah.
Oh,
you used one of those, yeah.
Yeah. There's like footage of us in like 99 or something, like listening to Limp Bizkit and like jumping off the internet. I really want to find it. It's like, but I think my friends got it. But yeah, we definitely
the camera or the tape.
Or his dad like digitalized a bunch of their like
cool
memories and I was like a big friend of their family, so like there's a ton of me and I was like always hanging around them and stuff. So they've definitely got footage of that of me skating, and so like eager to see it, and it's definitely like embarrassing but also really awesome to see.
It's such like it's just a time capsule, and when you get far enough removed, it's really just sort of like nostalgic and nice to watch. But
it is. Yeah, it's strange to watch too.
Yeah,
it is.
So I have the original. I have it with me.
Whoa.
Yeah, the original with the lens. So this is I bought this camera after that guy Adam like introduced me to like filming, but he gifted me. I kind of took over the filming for like our crew, and we would just make like these little homey videos of like them skateboarding, me rollerblading. But he gifted me this lens, and it's the original lens, and I had used this all the way up until last April on all of my cameras, and the wind took my tripod out and destroyed my camera and this lens.
Oh.
Yeah, wicked bummer. But so I just for the nostalgia's sake, I put it back on the original camera, and this thing unfortunately no longer works. It just eats tapes and like doesn't eject them.
Yeah.
It would be awesome to make a video with this thing.
It would be awesome. Yeah.
Couldn't you export? Does it have a AV out? You could Still record it to an external recorder.
It uses the like RGB or like the red, yellow, and like green things, I think, right?
Yeah, you can totally get an external recorder and still use it.
Or
It
maybe
just
it's
won't record the tape. Yeah,
interesting.
that's right. Yeah, you can just get like the 3-prong thing.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm not really like knowledgeable on tech and hardware at all. Like, my current setup is just a Sony Handycam CX405, and I literally have the lens duct taped to it. Actually, more show and tell here, but yeah, just so you can see how ridiculous the current setup is. But in truth, filming solo, like the Handycam, it's super light, and it's if it does get taken out by the wind, it's pretty cheap and easy to replace. So it's kind of like a practical decision to keep using it. But you can see I have it. I bought another one of these lenses on eBay and duct tape it on there.
Wow, yeah. If it works, it works. So.
Nice, yeah. Make it work.
Yeah. I like
so when when you go and film yourself, you use two cameras then? Or do you go shoot a angle, then get another angle, or how do you normally? Because I notice your edits, it normally is like both tricks have two different angles to them.
Yeah, so I have just one camera. Part of the reason, I mean, I'm also really just picky, and maybe I don't know if I'm like jumping ahead or whatever, but
You're fine. Yeah.
Part of the reason I take so long to get clips is that I have one camera, and I kind of came up with this rule for myself, because it can be, if you don't approach like a solo video project in the right way, it can be almost unbearable to watch. So like a few years ago, maybe like 6-7 years ago, I kind of established a couple ground rules, like always have 3 angles. And there's every once in a while there's a trick where it's just like you only got one, but like shoot like B-roll, get like a close-up of you running in, get like a ride out trick, find some way of like essentially like creating like or getting establishing shots so that you have more material to edit, and you lose that sort of static appearance of just like one shot.
Yeah, I think that's what's really amazing about your edits, because it was almost like I would think about maybe 5-10 years ago, filming a solo edit, and I kind of did a few, and it was like, yeah, but this could never really work. Like it can never, it's kind of just like I'm not going to do my best stuff doing this because I want to film somebody else to film. It's just kind of like a novelty type thing to do, for lack of a better word. And I think that's what's amazing about your sections is it's like proof that if there is somebody in a sport and they don't have a filmer or a crew, they can still make something that's like very engaging. And I guess like it's just you kind of overcame a hurdle that was in my mind about like skating alone, if that makes sense. Like,
and it seems like you kind of figured all this stuff out on your own too.
Yeah, kind of out of necessity. So basically, I filmed with like my whole crew of friends who skateboarded and BMX'd all the way until about 2013. That's when I graduated college. And at that point, basically everyone I knew kind of just fizzled. Like no one was skating. And I kind of just took on this path of like, I would just go to the skate park every weekend and just skate alone. But I still wanted to like film. I think what the solo filming for me really comes from having a reason or like motivation to continue to progress, because if I wasn't filming, I would literally just do top soles on a 12-inch P-bar and like be pretty damn content about it. But then you're not learning, you're not gaining new skills. And so having the camera there is like real motivation to be like, step it up, do it better. Don't do it the same as you did it before. Yeah.
Do you feel like, I know, because I'll go and normally film my park skating by myself, and it is really satisfying to do. I mean, do you ever feel like, I don't know, like you have to have the camera there, and then it's very hard if you were just to go out and skate by yourself and not try to make any content at all, and to enjoy skating in the same way? Because I do struggle with that. Like, I just wanted your thoughts on that.
Truthfully, only like street. Like, honestly, I'm not gonna, unless it's just literally like a park bench, like something extremely accessible. But outside of that, like I'm not really gonna skate street without the camera. But I don't have a park. Like, I live in the biggest city in New Hampshire, Manchester. It's the biggest city in the state, and they tore down the skate park
Well,
5 years ago and never built a new one.
oh, come on.
Yeah, so
Really?
yeah, so kind of to answer that question is, when I had access to a park, I would go to the park once or twice a week after work and skate just for fun, no camera. And it was, that's when skating really is kind of therapeutic. It really is like your sketchbook where you can just explore ideas without any like having to worry at all about like what that idea is how it's gonna translate, because it doesn't have to translate. It's just you skating.
Right.
But yeah, so ever since they tore the park down, I just kind of really, that actually in a weird way, that sort of really propelled me into even, pushing my street and filming even more. So maybe it's a good thing.
That is interesting. Yeah, I know with me, like, going out and filming myself at a park, and I kind of get this with your skating too, is like I always feel like I'm trying to do something. I really want to do something kind of out of my comfort zone, and I also kind of don't want to repeat myself exactly as a clip I've had in the past. And it kind of makes you really hard on yourself, and that kind of sucks. Like, I don't like that. Do you feel that way sometimes?
Oh, definitely. And I know like you and I have kind of DM'd about that here and there. Yeah, I definitely am like really self-critical and I really actually appreciated the Cody Lampman podcast that he did with Jump Street at Winter Clash, I think it was. But he like really goes into that sort of like skate psychology of like being like overly self-critical and like yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I struggle to not beat myself up over it. Recently, especially the current project I'm working on, I've just been like, so like everything I film, I'm just like,
yeah, I get that from your post. That's why I ask. Is it seems like it's funny because like you'll post something and be like, this is a throwaway or something.
yeah,
and I think it's like incredible. And it's funny because like there are clips of yourself you show other people and they see something in it that you just don't see. And I think that's something they like in it that you just don't see a lot of times. And that's another thing that's interesting about you is like you oftentimes don't have that outside perspective of somebody coming in and saying like, oh no, man, that was like really sick what you just did there. Like, you should keep that. Does that do you think that's part of what plays into the self-critical stuff, or like, or do you feel like you're a pretty good judge of your own, I guess, ability to film?
I mean, I think it's both, but yeah, no, I mean, I think I kind of have like an expectation of like what I believe I can achieve. And I get really like frustrated when it doesn't pan out the way I think it should. But I really like you said it and I wrote it down. When you were talking with John, fuck. John. Yeah, no, not Jan. Sorry, guys. He asked you, or you guys were talking about throwaways, and
Mhm.
you said there's value in everything.
Yeah.
And Tree, you said the very similar thing in your podcast. You said, put it out there and see what happens. There's no rules.
Mhm.
And what's really interesting, what's so inspiring about all you guys, the whole Flavor crew, is that type of skating, that type of mentality, coincidentally or ironically, like really speaks to me. And maybe it's because it does contrast my sort of like psychology of how I approach my skating. But like I love watching these sort of exploratory ideas and like what all of you guys come up with. And you see that, but in the best possible way, that whole idea of like that like there's value in everything, like, and there really is. And I think, Ryan, that's kind of like what you're saying, where it's
Yeah.
um like other people might see something that you don't see in it yourself.
Yeah.
And so putting it out there in a lot of ways is the best thing you can do, because while you might, for whatever reason, not appreciate the thing you just did, the fact that someone else could see something of like specific value really
Yeah.
offers a lot to the skate community. So I get so much of that as like a sort of like a community ethos from all of you guys in the Flavor crew, and I thrive on that. I love it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, thanks. That's I definitely relate to a lot of that. I mean, I know within like our own crew of the people we skate with, we've been talking a lot lately about like being self-critical and like how I don't know. I don't want to say like transcend or move beyond that or whatever, just understand it. But because a lot of times, especially with my friend Reed, like he will do something that's just incredible. Like I could, like if I did it, you would hear me talk about it for like years. And he just like,
Yeah,
and
shout out
and
Reed. He's next level.
yeah. But
He's
I think it happens to like everybody at some point in skating, where like you really, you get somebody's outside perspective, and you kind of have to trust that. People say like trust your intuition. It's like,
Well, yeah, you get lost in your own head.
maybe not. Like maybe
Yeah.
not. Like sometimes maybe don't trust your intuition on certain things.
Yeah.
I've kind of learned that, and it's very hard not to do that because it's hard. Like, well, if I can't trust my own intuition about if this trick is worthy or not, then like, how do I, how do I judge my own judgment? If that makes sense.
No, I'm really glad you brought that up, into your intuition and like the idea of intuitive skating and your own judgment. I actually have a list of like kind of like keywords that I wanted to touch on.
Mhm.
And intuitive skating is on that list. And the fact that I have it as intuitive versus mechanical. And I approach my skating from a very like mechanical standpoint. Like for me, it's like programming. Like I have this very rote approach to learning my skate tricks. So essentially like, and another reason I'll go to a spot and spend 3.5 hours to get 12 seconds of usable footage. But yeah, like I have the idea of what I want, and then I have to use this repetitive kind of learning method to program that into like how I'm gonna just program myself into being able to do it.
Mhm.
And then yeah, it's
And by mechanical, do you mean like here are the step by step things I need to do in order to accomplish that trick, that particular trick? I'm not sure.
well, I guess what I mean is, well, I guess like Logan and I were talking about this, or Nate and I were talking about Logan, but like the sort of intuitive skater, and like Dom Bruce being
Mhm.
the like
I knew you were going to bring them up. Yeah.
he's kind of the pinnacle example of an intuitive skater, and
Yes,
Logan really, I think, is like kind of embodies that. He's like the
he very much is.
new generation of that kind of like jazz, just like kind of what's the term?
Yeah, he's loose.
Yeah.
He's very
Um,
like
Fluid would be a
Yeah,
good word, I
Fluid,
think.
yeah. And I think personally, for whatever reason, I struggle with finding value in something I've done unless I've preconceived
Oh,
so by mechanical, I mean like basically like having like, and maybe it could stem from like sort of like my background in painting, where like you kind of have to like have like an artist statement, like a preconceived
ah,
like a concept that you're working towards. So like for me, I feel like my skating's mechanical, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like I actually like some of like
yeah.
my
There's something to that
yeah,
approach.
I mean, for
Sure.
me, like some of my favorite tricks, like when I look back and I'm like, wow, I'm really proud of this trick I filmed. It's usually something that like is executed in this very like sequenced and mechanical way where I'm like, I can revisit the idea just by watching the trick that I did.
Yeah, because you're a person that makes trick lists.
Yeah,
Like yeah, you have like I've seen your list. It's crazy.
Wow,
Yeah, this is
yeah.
crazy.
it just goes on and on.
This is psycho. This is nuts. Look at this.
How do you determine which one you're gonna check off? Does it just feel like one day, or this is the one, or
Uh,
what's the approach for that?
I try to be as strategic as possible. If I can coordinate a day where it's like I know that these 2 or 3 spots are in like a very close vicinity, and realistically, if I'm up early and keep a clear head and just stay focused, I can get these 3 clips, just because of the geography or whatever. Um, but I think I maybe lost track of the original question there.
No.
That's fine. Let's do another question. What is the frequency? How often do you skate on average?
It's been the last like 2 months have been really bad weather, and I've also had like a ton of just like adulting bullshit happening, like with my house and like. But I skate every Saturday and every Sunday as long as the weather permits. And I built these boxes in my basement, so I was able to skate quite a bit in the early winter. Part of the complications in my personal life have been that my basement flooded, and then I had to demo everything. And so I haven't really been able to skate in my basement, and the weather's been really bad. So recently it's kind of just been Saturday, Sunday. But now the days are long, and I try to get out for at least 4-5 sessions a week.
Mm-hmm. And going back to what you're saying about like the mechanical nature of how you approach those tricks. So you have your trick list and you write it down, and you're like, this is specifically what I want to accomplish. Do you ever go to a spot um and something you think of at that point at the spot trumps what you wrote down the list? So like you come up with something on the spot, or is it like what percentage of your tricks would you say go through that mechanical process versus what you're saying like an intuitive type of skater like Dominic Cruz?
I mean, I definitely do, because at the end of the day, like as much as you can kind of visualize an idea, and it's most common with unfamiliar spots. And recently, I've been trying to skate a lot of new terrain. With spots I'm really familiar with, if I have an idea, I can typically just make it happen.
Wow.
But when it comes to like having an idea for a spot I've never seen and just found on Google Maps, a lot of the time I get there and it's like, all right, well, I drove 45 minutes and I'm not going to get skunked. Come away with something. So you have to scrap the original plan, and it's kind of like, what can I do now? But percentage wise, I'd say it's probably like 60-40, maybe
Oh, okay.
75-20. Like,
Gotcha.
I try to stick to the plan, but like, there's no question about it. When it comes to street skating, there's so many variables. You
Yeah.
do have to always be ready to adapt. Like, okay, that's a good example. That I really did not want to do the curb bash. I went there. I went there and I tried so long to push out over the curb, and I did. I got one, but there's another kind of going back to like rote learning and like kind of just the rule of like, I know they talk about it. Austin talks about it on Jump Street, where it's like if you didn't do it 3 times or something, like you doesn't count or something. Like I did get out over the curb one time with the Mizu to alley wall, and I got it one time, but I was like, well, one, it wasn't pretty enough. It's got to be cleaned up. And then when I started trying to clean it up, I just couldn't. I couldn't even get close to pushing back out over the curb. So I was like, what can I do? I'm not gonna get skunked. I have to get a clip that that I can work with here.
Mhm.
And I was like, I could do this curb bash, and that's something I can replicate for a couple angles. So that like that was sort of an adaptive, intuitive moment.
Yeah.
How many times did that take? Because I know I've seen you try like 100 tries for a trick before. How much did this one take specifically?
I would say most of my sessions are about 200, 250.
Oh my.
Oh wow.
And
You're
there's
crazy.
another huge benefit of filming alone, because like I don't have to worry about like upsetting anyone or like ruining someone else's day. It like for me, it's just like I'm here to try to achieve this one thing. So if it takes me all day, I'm gonna try to do it. And
Wow.
so that's a
That's
benefit.
something I can't comprehend, just doing that by yourself for 200 times. In public too. I would be scared about getting hurt or somebody coming up to me and just giving me like an awful time or just too many questions.
Yeah,
and which brings me to the
You're
question, like,
dangerous.
what kind of interactions do you have? Like, what would be like a typical interaction with somebody coming up to talk to you, and what would be like an extreme case as well?
a lot of times so the city I live in is pretty rough. It's got at one point they literally called it ground zero for the fentanyl crisis. Like we have like this like 6-block radius right behind the spot that was just playing. That's basically like Skid Row. It's just like super gnarly. Most of the time I fall, there's like a dirty needle like in my face. Like sort of nasty, but I lost track again.
Just interaction with people. What is it
Okay,
like?
yeah, so that's right. So a lot of the interactions I have are with like transient people. So they're not always totally like coherent interactions, and a lot of them can be really like sort of, they're not really reading the room because they're operating on a different wavelength, and like they might just want to like, to them they're like, I reside here in the street, like, and my day's open, so let's chat. And I'm like, like I gotta focus. I need to do this thing, and I don't really want to get caught up in a conversation again, because I really thrive on that like programming. So like it can be like really difficult for me when like I use like verbal devices where I'll like talk myself through a trick where it's like jump feet together, weight centered, like hips over the rail, hips to the inside, hips to the outside, like, so I'm like talking myself through the tricks most of the time. I think most of the interactions I have are probably people just actually looking at me from a safe distance, being like, this person's a head case and I don't know what's going on.
I could see that. I could see it would be probably a little bit more stealthy skating by yourself rather than a crew. Just like, oh, this is just a guy who's just doing his whatever he's doing. Yeah, I can see
No,
that.
there is that. I do think, rolling up solo to a spot and, not having like chatter and, whatever definitely is a benefit with regards to potentially getting thrown out. But,
Yeah, I mean, Ryan and them can get really loud when we skate, so
Yeah.
does
I mean,
attract a bit more attention.
yeah, I mean, we're
Yeah,
in
there's
constant joking mode pretty much, I feel like, when we're out skating. So
Oh,
Yeah.
Zach has a good question. When you film different angles, do you do the full trick every time?
Yeah. I mean, there are exceptions for sure, but in general, I try to replicate the entire movements. I find that one, it just makes the alternate angle quite literally more believable or more functional as like a as like raw material for editing. And often, again, you know, coming back to that sort of like programming, once I've kind of got it dialed in, like you might think, oh, like it would just be easier like to cut out the first part if like I just want an emphasis shot of like a rail to wall. Maybe it would be easier to like step on the rail and just get a shot of like the last bit of the rail to wall or something. But every time I try to like cut a corner like that, I end up getting wrecked. And so then it's like I'm better off just like sticking to the program and just like going through the motions and getting alternate angles of the whole clip.
It's interesting. So when you're, I seen one thing you did where I think you were like over 300 tries. Is that right?
Was it one of the basement box clips? Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you like when you're? I mean, I guess that's not a street clip, but when you're skating street, do you set out to like I'm going like I enjoy pushing myself to because to me like 200 tries is nuts. Like I don't know if I've ever done anything that takes 200 tries. Like, and do you enjoy like kind of mentally like the mental endurance it takes to do something like that? Is that something that you're kind of seeking out, or how do you think?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, when I've like done the fight, like when I've had that session, like where it's like I just absolutely destroyed myself physically, mentally, and emotionally, and like brought myself down to absolute zero as like a person. The that like feeling of like bliss post session is definitely like addictive. I definitely like feeling utterly like obliterated by the time I'm done skating. I find it like very, I think like rewarding maybe. It just feels good. Like I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna sit the fuck down on the couch. I'm gonna watch a movie. I'm gonna make a pizza or something. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, because that's crazy. Like that, I feel like you're special in that regard. Like of that many tries. Like, and to do that consistently, I mean, that takes some crazy mental strength to do that.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not even trying one.
And you know, like I think everybody does seek that out in skating. I think that's one of the big goals of skating is to like push your like your mentality to a limit and then exceed what you think you could do, even in that regard. But yeah, that's to me, that's just like wow, that's a unique type of endurance I think that you have to do that.
Yeah. I mean, part of it, you know, again, is just sort of like necessity of like, I'm picky. Like I have the vision of how I think it should look.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of the time, this is no joke. Like most of the tricks I film, like I'll have a make within 30 minutes. But then once I have achieved like or proven to myself, it's like, oh, I can do the trick. Now it's like, well, now I have to spend all this extra time doing the trick as well as I possibly can.
Yeah.
So like, I don't want to just like do it. And like, I'm really picky. Like I have so many throwaways for this current project where it's like my arm did that in the grind.
Yeah.
I want to use the clip like it's a cool spot. Like I've wanted to hit that spot, and it's kind of like you only get to hit it once type of spot, but my arm, so I can't use it. And
yeah,
I don't know. So I'm picky.
So you kind of make like what's interesting is when people talk about like a sport like rollerblading, we say like there's no rules, and it's like yeah, it's true, but you do kind of make the own rule book for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, and so you tell yourself that like I can't have my arm out here. So I guess do you think of like for me, I always call it shit foot when we drag our foot, and it's like real annoying. It's like oh, I just got that clip, but I had shit foot. I got to redo it. But so you're kind of similar. Like do you have like a set, maybe you're not even completely conscious of them all because I don't think I am of myself. But so you kind of have rules that like that you abide by like that? Where do you like? It's interesting to think like where that comes from. Do you ever think about that? Like where did I get in my head that my arm can't come out like this? Or like, is it just that you look at your own clip and you're like, that isn't aesthetically pleasing to me?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I were to go like way back, I do one of the things, growing up around only with skateboarders, one of the things that always stuck with me was that the most common criticism of rollerblading was that it's easy because they're attached to your feet, which is sort of a ludicrous statement.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense, but nevertheless, people like to attach themselves to that idea. And so forever, really, I've always been very much cognizant of the idea that if they are attached to my feet, then what I really should be able to do is refine a movement as well as possible. Like in skateboarding, you see a lot of like this more kind of like hesh, like just sketchy in a
Yeah.
good way, gnarly thrash, like just thrasher, like, and it kind of like exudes and translates the sort of nature of subject object relationship as like a skater with a skateboard, where rollerblading, we like, there's no question about like you can't really think about rollerblading without like thinking about like ice dance and figure skating.
Yeah.
The level of like absolute like just obsession they have with like refined movement. You're pulling back some really old stuff. So yeah, these are
That was cool.
908 days.
Yeah, you're talking about a little bit in the past. I think this is one of the earliest videos you have in your Vimeo that I found.
Yeah, I kind of cleaned house. There was some older stuff that like almost embarrassing.
Oh man, I was looking for that stuff. I want to see the origins of the Nathan Bentley.
Actually, so quick shout out, Stefan Brando. At this point, like this video here that's playing, at this point, I didn't have a skate account. I was literally just making videos more or less because I wanted to skate and document it, and I just put it on Vimeo, and that was enough for me. I was content with that. And Stefan reached out to me on my personal Instagram and like said something, like complimented the section or this section, and it really like it kind of lit a fire under me. Like it really was like, oh, like here I am. I'm making this video kind of just for the sake of me skating. Like I just am doing it in my own bubble, but having this like industry pro reach out of the blue and be like, that was cool. Like I was like, oh, like this is, thank you. Like that's amazing. And like maybe I should like kind of, this is my favorite non-grind trick I think I've ever done.
That was cool.
Yeah, no. So shout out Stefan, because that one little, reaching out really kind of like boosted my like sort of confidence and desire to push myself farther as a skater.
Yeah, that's something I was going to ask you about. Is like is skating by yourself and staying motivated like that. Like what do you think is the main source of your motivation to not only continually skate but also film? Is it? I mean, we kind of talked about wanting to like mentally break yourself and feel that kind of like joy from doing that, or it could be like the artistic pursuit of just documenting skating, or I guess it doesn't have to be one singular thing, but is there, because I think a lot of people when they skate alone, they kind of end up quitting, or they come back to the sport later because it's just hard to stay motivated like that when you don't have people to skate with. So I guess more than anything, would you have advice for people that don't have people to skate with in the way that you approach staying motivated?
Man, it's a little tough. I don't know if I have advice. I mean, other than just, like kind of like live your best life. And like for me, my best life means I'm skating as much as possible, and that's kind of enough to motivate me. But I had a thought and it just escaped me.
Nah, you're good.
Damn.
Sorry, I was asking about the like, how do you personally stay motivated to keep at it?
Yeah.
Like if you had a source of motivation.
Yeah. Okay. So this is sort of an indirect answer, but like, I don't really have a direct source of motivation, but I think one thing that's really, really interesting about rollerblading is, and I've thought about this, and if any of my like skateboard buds are listening, like no offense, but like basically everyone I know who skateboarded quit, more or less. Like, there's still guys that like, dink around and have fun, and that's great. That's fantastic. But like, I think because rollerblading was so polarizing and so stigmatized that from a very early point, it became a source of identity, right? Like to be part of this thing that like puts you basically like puts you as like a victim to like a huge part of like a huge demographic of like of our like action sports community. Like it kind of like instills in you this like sort of like sense of identity where you're like, the more people hate on it, it's like, well, this is what I do. And that's kind of the motive for me. Like I just love it. I don't know. Like it's the same thing where it's like when everyone, in 2000, 99, 2000, when everyone was like, I got my World Industries deck and this is what I do now. Like I got the deck, but like rollerblading is the thing I love. I just love it.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Nate, do you have any like ambitions and like future goals or prospects to take with your skating, or do you want to just keep as you're keeping on, or is there anything that you'd like to change moving forward?
You mean like I
guess for instance, like maybe like sponsorship, going to contests, like changing it up a little bit.
I'm worried about. I would be concerned about participating in contests. I would like to like attend them and actually meet like so many of the people I've been able to connect with on Instagram and actually meet and skate with them. I don't know that I would be interested in competing. I don't know that I'm the type of skater that's able to compete. It's tough to say. Right now I really just want to keep pushing myself and making the best, like make every video for as long as I can, make every video better than the last one. And that's another part of the reason I'm like really beating myself up over a lot of the clips I've been getting, because I feel like the last video I made, I was really proud of it. And I feel like it was like the best showcase of my ability, but like I want to do better than that. And I think that I can. I think I'm close. I'm really excited for this.
I can relate to that so much right now because
yeah.
Like the last section I made, that great value section, like I love it, and I'm like I want to make something better, but I'm like that's the collection of a lot of ideas over the last 10 years, and now I don't have like 10 years of ideas to pull from, and it's like and it's like it's hard to because you want to make something better, but I think ultimately like maybe it just has to be something different, not necessarily better.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. At a certain point, there's only so far you can push a certain way of skating, and then you have to accept that like for you to do something that you're satisfied with, you actually have to be doing something different. But for now, like I think there's a little wiggle room to keep pushing the type of skating I want to do, which is more or less like an intersection of like creative ideas with a certain level of traditional ag and amplitude. But so I'm gonna keep pushing that as much as I can. But
Yeah.
I also, wizard, the wizard like movements are so rewarding. And it does, like, everyone who's new to it like says it, and it's true. And I'm very new to it. Like, I just really started dabbling with it last fall. But it kind of sates that need to grow and learn, because like you really realize like how unrefined you are until you start like working with those motions. I am so impressed with what you guys all do. Ryan, I just, so I've rewatched Great Value. For what it's worth, you guys absolutely crushed that video.
No,
There's not a lot of videos that I watch more than like a handful of times, but I've rewatched that Great Value probably 7-8 times. It's so good. And like it's one of those videos where every time you watch it, you pick up on something different, like a different movement, a different approach, a different way of like utilizing the skate and the obstacle. And it's just such a like satisfying video to watch.
Oh, cool. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was like the 10th full video I made, so I was trying to go all out and make sure it didn't suck. So
I mean, I think you nailed it. I mean, I was on board from the beginning. Like I got I got the
oh yeah, cool. Good old newspaper.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, there's something I had something when you were talking about the identity of identifying with skating like that. Oh, you were saying, I was asking you like the motivating factor of you skating, and you said because partially because you get like an identity and kind of like a purpose from it almost.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps you going. Do you ever see like a downside to like over identifying with skating? Because like I definitely relate to what you're saying there. Like for sure that is a big reason why I skate, because it feels like um it's a part of my identity that I'm like outwardly expressing, kind of like through movement or videos or whatever. But yeah, I kind of struggle with like over identifying my own self worth with skating. Do you with like like we're going into the self critical type of stuff? Do you see any negatives with like over identifying with skating in that way, or is it just a motivating factor for you?
I mean, in general, I think being a balanced individual is the best thing anyone can do. So like if skating is your one and only passion, there's certainly risk to like your well-being. Like, because you probably like, I love the optimism. A lot of people are being like, I'm gonna, we can skate till we're 60 now. Like a lot of the mushroom blading content is like, yeah, we'll just have bionic hips and we'll keep skating till we're
skating VR or something.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think it's what it was like. Is there a downside to it being?
Yeah. Do you see any downside?
No,
like myself, like I kind of like struggle with my own self-worth to identify with skating, which I think it's just the thing of like anybody who makes any type of art. I feel like it's that push and pull.
No, I mean, I personally, I can't really think of any real downside other than like if for some reason, whether it be like serious injury or life changes, whatever, that you can't skate anymore. If that's your only sense of identity, then you're gonna feel pretty lost as an individual. Just being a balanced person in general, I think everyone should have a couple things that they're passionate about, hopefully.
For sure. Because and I mean, like you're talking about the mechanical nature of how you approach tricks kind of mirrors itself in your art. Because you said you have like a concept of how you want to create a piece of art, similar to how you have a concept of how you want to skate and perform a trick. Are there any other like is there any other parallels between like the art you make and your own skating? Like, so like with your skating, you kind of mentally push yourself pretty hard, going like
Yeah.
300 tries. I mean, I imagine in your art, you're kind of doing a similar thing like that a little bit, kind of pushing yourself, maybe not physically, but like mentally kind of to an edge.
Yeah, I don't, I don't necessarily want to go like totally down that rabbit hole, but there was a point where from 2016 until June of 2021, I painted every single day for the express with the express intent of, if you work hard enough, you should be able to make it and achieve something. And I like went all the fuck in. Like I wanted to be a painter that people knew, and I wanted to show work. And it just was definitely the definition. It's kind of a goofy or played out term, but it was definitely the definition of an epic fail.
Yeah.
So in that regard, and it was when I basically came to terms with like, this isn't going anywhere. That's when I started the skate account in December of the very end of 2021. So like a year and a half ago. And so far, like the reception, like it's just been a totally different experience. Like the sense of community and inclusivity within skating is like has been like the most rewarding and amazing thing. Like the positivity, everyone that I'm able to communicate with, have dialogue with, it's like really just insane. Like, because before that I was, on my paint Instagram, just, trying to get traction. And I'd get like 10 likes and like nobody like, and that's like synced with my Facebook with like friends and family, and it's like,
Yeah.
nobody gave a shit about anything. And so coming like kind of, moving past that into, and just making a skate account with the express purpose of just wanting to share what I do with a community of people that appreciate and do what I do and love doing it. And seeing that sort of reciprocated positivity and energy has been like the most amazing and rewarding thing. Like, shout out every single person I've ever talked to on Instagram. You are awesome and amazing. Like, always.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Gonna see if anybody had any questions in the chat. I know there were a few.
Yeah, there were some good questions there.
I realize I've been going off, so I apologize.
Oh no, that's a good, super interesting. Nate had a good initial question. Which you touched on a little bit, but he asked, "Have you always had such a methodical approach to skating? I know you put a ton of thought into various motions of your tricks/lines. Have you always had that approach, and how did that come about?"
I don't think it's always, no, it's definitely not always been that way. I think a lot of the time, at least growing up, especially in like the earlier days, it was like just wanting to do, like the really basic goals. Like, it's like, can you do do a handrail, do a down rail, like, and just achieving that was like this, like just that was sort of the approach, like achieve something you saw someone else do. And like, something that really resonated with me, the entire How to Be Unpopular with Todd and Ben Magaziner. But I was rewatching that, and I did take one note because Todd mentions that he says the part of skating is like, that's a part of skating, is like deciding what your path is, what you're going to focus on, what tricks you're going to develop. And that's something that's kind of new to me. So I guess to answer Nate's question, I haven't always had that methodical approach, but the more I skate and the more I become aware of what I'm able to do, the more methodical I get, because I'm, reflecting on what Todd said, like I have now sort of established this path I'm looking towards and ideas I'm focusing on. So more and more and more becoming more methodical.
That's a good answer.
I have a question. Which came first? Was it the art or the skating?
I mean, technically skating insofar as like something I did like all the time. I grew up, I was like one of the kids that was, would get a hold of a marker and just destroy the living room wall or whatever when I was like, like 3, I don't know. But yeah, no, I mean, I went to school for painting. I went to Mass Art in Boston, which is how I ended up in Boston. And so that's really the point where I was like, oh, like this is a thing I want to like start honing in my skill as a painter. So I would say skating came first, to be honest. Like it's I started doing that when I was 8 or technically earlier. I had the Fisher Price like adjustable plastic wheel quads, those. Yeah, I had those when I was, I don't know, like 4 or 5.
Speaking of skates, I've noticed you had quite the collection of skates, and it seems like you have quite an interest in Aeons and the Thems and also the blanks now. What are factors that go into a skate? Is it looks? Is it feel? Is it how they operate?
Everything since I've discovered Aeons, the Aeon skate works so well for me. It's like when they were designing that boot mold, they're like let's use this guy's foot and all the way he likes to move as our like R&D. Like that skate was like made for me. It's just perfect. That's the only way I can describe it. I'm convinced that the biggest point of progress for me as a skater was the first time I put on Aeons in the first section I made in Aeons. And I think the biggest part is realizing that I don't like a raised heel boot. I can't stand raised heel. And then the unibody just being that, like literally when I first started skating Aeons, I couldn't believe how much the palm of my foot just filled me. Cause like there's no padding and you're just right there. Like it's just your foot and your front 2 wheels. And it killed me. But like having that sense of like immediate control over your chassis, I just can't deal with anything else. The blank skate's really close to that. It's like, for me, that's the UFS. That's the only UFS skate I could go back to. And I'm still skating. That's kind of like if I'm making reels or just having a park session. But realistically, any street mission I ever do, I'll be doing it in Aeons. I can't see any reason not to.
All right. I guess this is topical. Thoughts on original Aeon cuff versus new cuff?
Infinitely better. It's silly how much better it is, and it's silly that they would have got it so right on the first go and then decide to change it to something infinitely worse. It doesn't make sense.
I got a lot of questions coming in. A lot of shout outs to a lot of requests to come to Ohio. I reflect that too. We should come skate with us.
I would like to make it to the it's King of Ohio now, yeah? It's no longer Cleveland specific.
Yeah.
I'd like to make it this year, but for some reason I have a date in my head that might be in is it September 9th?
I'd have to double check.
It's that whatever that holiday is every year.
Labor Day?
Yeah.
Okay, I may not be able to. My best friend's getting married on the 9th or 7th. So I don't know how that will pan out. It might not work, but I would love to.
Cool.
All right. Nathan's got another question. If you take notes, or if you took notes of things that inspire new ideas for you, who would be the bladers that are on your list the most?
That's a good question. I'm literally not just saying that, but you guys, like all the Flavor Crew edits, all your individual reels, like there's always something I'm like that. Like, how can I apply this idea in the more mainstream? I think Eugen Innen is the GOAT. Like nobody, I think, I don't think anyone has achieved that level of like traditional, like absolutely, just absolutely mastering traditional ag skating to the point where they can completely innovate, completely come up with new ways of moving and articulating the entirety of their form, like arms, legs, grab, hold positions, and doing it on the highest possible risk obstacles.
Yeah.
To me, Eugen is the GOAT, and probably my favorite skater to watch in the last 3 or so years. But man, there's so many. Like I still love watching Sean Darce. Just he's like anyone that has a clear idea, like anyone that's established like a sense of individual identity as a skater and does it with conviction is inspiring to me, because like it's really easy to not easy. There's so many tricks I can't do. I have such a limited trick vocabulary. So not easy, and I redact that statement, but it's like I just feel like we've seen that like people can take the set, the trick list. They can take the set vocabulary and execute those movements. But seeing just seeing people that adapt new ways of doing that in a way that's exciting and done with, conviction. That's what I like to see.
Okay, and piggybacking off of that, what Zach asked, what's your favorite trick to do and your favorite trick to see done?
I'll answer that backwards. My favorite trick to see done is a fish brain. I cannot do fish brains. And actually, shout out Jeremy Troya, because I just saw him post a really nice fish brain like right before we got on this podcast. Favorite trick to do, honestly, just just a topsoul on a round rail. It's and not tall. I can't topsoul tall stuff. I can't. Topsoul on a knee-high rail, like right about 24 inches, where it's just tall enough to make you work for it and feel like you got that reward, but you know that you can do it because it's a topsoul. That trick, just topsoul on a knee-high circle rail, is the most satisfying thing.
Oh, I just played a topsoul. We missed it.
Yeah.
I was trying to be
waiting
topical.
for it. Yeah.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah, there it is. Top torque.
Top torque. All right.
Yeah, so I
next
just
question.
learned that with the them frame. I cannot do groove tricks in Aeons. It's a weird thing. You would think the unibody would be better for leaning into like royals and torques and stuff, but I have a way easier time getting into that position on a UFS skate.
All right, next question. What's your wizard setup, and do you intend to continue wizarding?
Yeah, once like good weather's in full swing, I will be skating a lot more after work and definitely be experimenting more with the wizard. The current setup is I have the blank SK boot with the blue anodized ground control. I just wanted to try metal frames, and it was, it's a cost-effective route. It's just the 80 mil ground control big wheel frame, the aluminum one on the blank SK.
Okay, and then Zach says it's Labor Day weekend, which is Monday, September 4th. So I guess it would be the second and third. Or it would be the second.
Okay.
Would be the
I
King of
might
Ohio.
be able to. It might be tough because I'll see. I want to, but I won't be competing. I can't do that.
Oh, it's fine.
We'll skate. Can we all just get together and have a fun?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
That's
for
all
sure.
I want. Yeah, I just want to skate.
Eric Camaris asks, can you elaborate on your theory about momentum and direction change in trick combos? Interesting question.
Yes, Eric and I have talked about this, and actually going back to inspiring skaters, and the idea of like establishing your path as a skater. Eric really, the way that he approaches certain movements and specifically momentum and direction change. And I think we talked briefly about like the motion stop sequences. I suppose I don't, my theory on it. Well, so I guess the word I come back to a lot is inertia, or like, which is, I mean, I'm not like I don't know a ton about physics, but it's like, and if I'm wrong, don't laugh at me. But like inertia is like your like the tendency of an object to maintain a set path in motion unless acted upon by an external force. And I guess if I were to have like a theory about it, and in what's informed my skating most recently, is the fact that your skates are separate and your ability to redirect yourself in a different position or into a different direction is not just contingent on you, the subject, as like a singular entity, but the fact that you have your 2 feet that can completely alter your path on whatever obstacle you're on. So like I've been really into like using one foot as a your anchor point, and allowing the other foot to sort of find some other obstacle within its path to then completely change.
Yeah.
Actually, I think just because it might help what I'm trying to explain, I did a reel recently where I did a negative macchio.
I know what you're talking about.
And I just kind of wedged. Yeah, that one.
This one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I kind of just let
cool.
my free foot wedge and then swung around. And I think that's a good example of what I'm trying to explain. So I don't know if it's like a theory, but like, I guess, yeah, just like inertia. And I think it's awesome because it's very unique to rollerblading. There's not a lot of sports, mostly because our skates are attached to us. So, but it's like pretty unique to rollerblading that we have the ability to completely redirect and reposition ourselves in within like this very kind of like scientific sort of way.
Yeah, that's really cool.
All right, question from Logan. What is your favorite, or what is your vegetable that you think your skating best reflects?
Vegetable, fuck. I don't know, like carrots or celery or something. I don't like. It's probably not all that like exciting. It's like meat and potatoes, vegetables. It's kind of like I just like here's the thing I'm doing.
Carrots look like.
Unless you think it's like more spicy, I don't know.
I would assume it's a little bit more flavor than carrots and vegetables for your skating. If I were to
like a spicy
do something, maybe one of those sweet peppers or something.
Okay, or yeah, I do like peppers.
Yeah, something like
that. Nathan's saying pot roast would be the dish.
Yeah. Any more questions in here?
Pot roast and roasted carrots. Nathan, is he like a chef? He posts like really good food pics and
He
stuff.
does like to cook. Yes.
And
Yeah, he does
he's a
cook.
photog as well.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
Oh, roasted carrots. That makes sense. That makes sense.
There you go. Cool. Well, I don't know if there's any other.
Actually, okay, hold on. I have a super bad cheesy answer for Logan. It'd be an onion because you have the thing, like it's just you see what I'm doing, but the more you peel it away, the more you see there is to it.
Damn, that's an actually good answer. That actually makes a lot of sense too. Very true.
I did have an interesting observation that happens to me too. As we were talking, it was making me think about it. There it is. This is your most popular reel according to views. And I think it's funny because it happens to me all the time. The one that got away, less than ideal execution on a switch foot sequence, and of course, it's the one that you don't like. It's the one that does the best.
Dude,
I don't know why that works.
That's what we were just talking about, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's funny because that's one of my favorite sequences of movements, and I actually like not to sound like not to toot my own horn, but if I go into it right foot up, push, left foot dark side, I can do it like really nice. Like it looks clean. The push has both feet side by side. Like I can do that exact sequence, right foot up, left foot dark, and it looks really good. And I was trying to do it switch here, and it's in the description. Yeah, it was sloppy, but for some reason it did get the most views. I don't know why.
I mean, I will say that there are not a lot of people that can do that trick. I think I could probably count in my hands how many times I've actually seen that trick executed, especially on a flat wall. So
yeah,
there's something to be said about that.
You just got to keep stretchy. Tree, I'm surprised. No, of all people, you should have that. You're real limber.
I do, but there are not a lot of other people though. I'm trying to make you feel good here. Yeah. Take me out of the equation. Zach suggests an onion because your skating is like ogress. It has layers. There you go. I'm with that.
We're on the same page then. Yeah.
Oh, interesting question. What shoulder do you prefer to look over?
Well, so yeah, like fakie is my left shoulder, and I spin so I spin naturally to the left, and I spot my left shoulder. And I'm so Joey Lunger talks about this in his podcast on Jump Street, where it's I think he calls it I forget what he calls it, but basically, and I think a lot of people are this way, where I'm right foot stock sole dominant, but my right foot top sole is switch. So anytime I do a top sole, it's left foot top sole, and that's natural for me. And it's because I'm approaching the rail and I'm swinging my left foot over it and spotting my left shoulder. So yeah, it's all about, I'm a left shoulder natural. And because of that, I'm left foot natural top side. Unless it's alley, then I'm right foot natural, but then I'm spinning unnatural into it. So I'm a mess. I'm just a mess.
Did you happen to learn on something that's more on the right side than the left side by chance?
No, I mean, I learned all my grinds just on like one of those stock concrete coping boxes that we all had, the cookie cutter ones.
Back to the topic of pizza. What would be your what's the go-to pizza and topping combination?
Buff chick, 100%. I don't care if it's not traditional. That's the one, man.
I'm not familiar with this pizza. Could you explain
Buffalo chicken?
Buffalo chicken.
Oh, buffalo chicken. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I've never heard of buffalo chicken. He's using the slang on me. I've never heard it referred as that.
Yeah. Maybe
so a spicy pizza. What kind of dough?
I don't know. I usually just buy like the pre-made like balls of dough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like a accomplished baker. I don't know how to make like yeast rise, so I just buy the ball of dough and knead it out. Usually like a garlic or like a beer dough.
All right, Nathan Chase, are you into film/TV? If so, what shows are you watching?
Yeah, I definitely am a big fan of film. I'm kind of in a rut with like TV shows. I haven't had a good show. I haven't had a show I've been really excited about. So speaking of film, I wanted to see this movie forever. The Holy Mountain, the like 70s. I forget the director, Alejandro something. He was a Mexican director from like the 70s. And it's like a really weird, like existential, bizarre ass film. But I've never seen it, and I've always wanted to. And I finally was like, it's not streaming anywhere, and I just bought it on DVD because I still have a DVD player because I'm that guy.
Well, 1973.
Yeah,
Spanish.
Alejandro like Jarwitz or something. I don't know.
Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just going from memory. Like I knew
I'm
I knew it was
looking
with
at
a J.
the.
I just knew it was with a J, so I was like, I don't know.
Here's
Something.
the. I'm looking at the IMDb. I'm cheating.
Um,
Alejandro
yeah.
Jodorowsky.
Alex Sams and I were talking about the Jim Jarmusch film with the Neil Young score. Fuck, I forget what that one's called too. Dead Man. The like existential western. I forget. I don't. I've had a couple serious concussions, and I don't know if this is it, but like I struggle more and more with recall. There's a reason I like brought like a note sheet.
Have you gotten a concussion skating like recently by yourself, or have you ever gotten a concussion by yourself?
Not like a bad one. I did last April. I did fall off a drop rail and hit my head pretty good. But no, I had a really bad one skiing, and that kind of is what ended me like pushing my skiing. I was unconscious for over a minute and like
Holy shit! Really?
Yeah.
That's scary as hell,
Nice.
man.
Yeah, it was pretty gnarly. I had a helmet on, which was good, but it was just like a total body whiplash in like a
Oh
big
my
air
god,
Yeah.
that sounds crazy.
Dang.
right.
Go ahead.
Can I do a quick tangent? Because I felt like we maybe we're gonna talk about it, and then because obviously, filming street solo, one of the big things I think a lot of people think about is like what happens if you get wrecked.
Yeah, I had that down on my list to ask you.
Oh yeah.
And I did have one like really bad injury. And it's the whole scenario is kind of comical. Do I have time for like a quick story?
Yeah.
Oh yes, please.
Okay. I was skating this, and I at this point in my skating, I like didn't keep bails. I didn't want to like have B-roll. I just wanted to like have a clip. So I regret it. Also, the clip was nasty. So like not even necessarily like, visually, more just like the noises and maybe the visuals. Anyway, I was trying to do a top porn on a wall rail, but it was one of those wall rails where they intersect almost perpendicularly, and the retaining wall is like lower, and so you lock on at the top, and I missed my sole foot on the top porn, and it wedged directly between the rail and the wall, and I fell to the outside, and thank God there was like a tall banister with like multiple like support beams, and I was able to grab in like this desperate last chance of survival, grab one of those, get a hand on one of those beams, and essentially just sort of ease what would have probably been like a potentially like skate career. Not that I have a skate, but like one of those potentially like takes you out of it forever.
Holy shit!
But
Yeah.
so I literally did, and I have this screenshot. I kept it literally in case I ever had to like go to a doctor. So I am literally hanging, and my leg is entirely out, and I've got one arm on the thing, and the camera is set up, like set back from the rail, so you're looking at my back and my leg coming straight out, except for where my toes are is exactly where my heel was. So my foot and lower leg had twisted literally 180 degrees.
Oh my god!
And I'm hanging there, and my foot is wedged, and I'm upside down on a stair rail with one hand trying to keep as much of my body weight off of my leg that's entirely backwards.
What were you thinking, like, at that point?
Literally,
like in panic mode?
Yeah, it was pretty animal. Like
Yeah.
I part of the reason I like never did anything with the clip is I made the most like heinous like animal noise.
Oh,
And
shit.
but okay, so the funny thing about this story is that it was in a like a municipal parking lot. And at the time I was skating this rail, they were doing this sort of like public works event, and for kids and like family. So they had on site in the parking lot, less than 20 yards away, they had an ambulance with EMTs. They had
Oh,
a paddy wagon, squad car, like Manchester PD. They had like all of these other like public works vehicles and like attendees and actual like public servants like cops and EMTs and whatever. Firemen, that's the other one. And I am skating, and like no one is really, they're doing their thing, and this happens, and I'm dangling there, and I let out this just animal like horrible dying noise out of like
oh my
sheer
god.
shock and pain because I'm
Yeah.
looking straight up my leg, and all I see is my heel and not my toes.
Oh my god.
And no one comes. I should say none of the EMTs or cops come. And these two pedestrians, this older guy and I think his son, come like running over, and they lift me up. Like, thank God for those guys. They were heroes, because I'm like disgusting, dripping sweat, screaming like a dying person. And they like lift me down, and the kid is like trying to like yank my foot out of the rail, and my legs all backwards and shit. And then they finally get me down. And at this point, they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, like I'm fine. Thank you so much." Like, and they go over and they like tell the EMTs, and the EMTs come over and they're like, "So like, what do you think? Is it bad?" And I was like, "I can't feel anything." And they're like, "Well, do you want to ride in the ambulance to the hospital?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have insurance that's going to cover that, and I can't afford it.
Yeah.
So no." I was like, "Do you think it's bad? Like, what's going on?" And they're like, I was like, "I can't feel anything." And they're just like the second I declined getting a ride, they were just like, "I don't know, man." Like, they're like, "I don't know, like maybe it's nerve damage. It could be really bad. We don't know." And they just fucking left.
What?
Yeah, it was like the most ludicrous.
No.
It was so it's almost hysterical. It was pretty funny. And I think they were right. I mean, I definitely I don't know. I never ended up going to the doctor. But I like
You could like walk and everything?
I couldn't. I had my one skate, my good foot on, and I just coasted on the good foot back to my car. And I drive a manual, so like getting home was really tough. And like,
God.
yeah, I got home and just started doing research, tons of like WebMD stuff about like all the different ligaments.
Freaking yourself out. Yeah.
Yeah, I never did go to a doctor, and that injury is the only time I've actually taken like time off of skating. I took a full month off, and I did go and buy like one of those huge like knee braces.
Yeah.
And it was bad. Like I couldn't do squats for even after the full month I took off of skating, and I had to like really slowly work back into like stretching, like basically conducting my own like physical therapy experiments and like just trying to assess what was wrong. But
dude, what would you have done if like it was in, I don't know, like some manufacturing back of a building where nobody goes,
yeah,
like the weekend or some shit?
I know that's a good question. It would have turned into like some like what is it, like 24 hours?
Yeah, where you like cut off your own leg or something. You like get your Allen wrench and then like somehow you sharpen it with your teeth and you like cut off your own leg or something. Like some crazy survival story.
It would have been tough. I would have been able to get my foot unlodged, but it would have definitely added more damage to the injury, because if I did it myself, I would have been, doing more twisting. Whereas the two guys that came over, essentially like one guy was holding me and the other guy like was able to like get the foot out.
Dude, what do you think they were thinking? Like, what's this guy doing? And he has like rollerblades on.
Yeah, no, right. It's hysterical. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that all the time, because like a lot of the times I'm like really serious. Like I'm like in my head, like focused. And like,
do you like, sometimes I'm like yelling out loud to myself and I'm like, dude, what am I doing? And there's like people and families around.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
oh man,
I'm like talking to myself, like falling, like, damn it, shit, like just freaking out and stuff. It's so funny.
I've had a couple like full mental breakdowns filming for this section in particular.
That's crazy.
And people are definitely thinking this guy's crazy, and or like, wow, what a fucking loser.
Well, it kind of makes you think. It's like, wait, am I actually crazy? Because I am like a guy on rollerblades, like yelling, talking to myself.
Who's
like,
really
there's a little bit of like, they're not wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
It probably can be perceived that way.
Mm-hmm.
Two questions about the big fall. First, did you get it on tape? And then second, Nathan asked, are there any lingering issues from that fall?
Yeah, to this day, my right hamstring, like all the way from like my Achilles all the way up to like the piriformis area, what like the basically like buttocks, like is extremely tight, and I do as many like calisthenic workouts and stretches as I can to keep it limber. And then there was a second part to that question.
Oh, is it recorded?
Oh yeah, so I did mention briefly, I never kept the bail because I was so, it was first off, it was like 4 minutes of raw footage because the camera's on a tripod and I'm stuck, and then these people come over and then they lift me down and then the EMTs come over. And in retrospect, I do really wish I kept the raw footage. I do have, and I can send it. It's really blurry, but I can send it over to you. But I've got it's a bad photo because I think it was just a picture of the screen, or it may have been a screenshot, but I had posted it to my Instagram story on my private or like personal, like old non-skating account. This was back in 2019. So, but I do have like the screenshot. You can see very clearly that it's my heel.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude, that is a crazy story.
Yeah, I just think it's hysterical that like all the municipalities were there. Like, what are the odds of that?
Yeah, for sure.
That does sound like a content creator goal. One of those things, like we live in such a society now. It's like, oh man, that's like a best possible outcome for a solo mission sometimes.
Yeah,
for something like that to happen. It's like, oh geez, like what kind of society we live in now where it's like,
yeah, that was still at that point where I was like pretty much just skating for the sake of skating and making videos just for the sake of making videos.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking like outwardly about it really.
Yeah, that was before being corrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you
I
became a
still try.
content factory.
I still try to keep it like I don't make a ton of reels now. Part of that's just seasonal. You know, in the winter there's so little time to skate because of daylight and weather.
Yeah, it sucks.
Exactly. So when I go skating, it's like I want to get, you know, I want to make it worth my while. And for me, worth my while is a clip I can keep for the video. But in the summer, I definitely want to make more like actual phone reels this summer.
Yeah, you were making a lot for a little bit. I would like get up every day and you had a new video. I was like, this guy's crazy. He's out here every day, man.
Yeah, no, last summer I like definitely got in the swing. I was skating a ton last summer.
Yeah, it looked like you were out there like what, like 3-4 times a week at least. Like
yeah, like I was doing like 5 days a week most of last summer.
oh my god, you're crazy.
There was one point where it worked out where I did 7 days in a row, and I was like, that's too like I can't. That's not really like I was so beat, but
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, Ryan, you guys make tons of content in like the best possible way. Like I get the impression like you guys are skating every day. That's what it seems like.
I mean, like we skate on Saturdays basically, and like what we're doing now is like, I mean, I'll just film some stuff for Instagram at like the park, and then I've just been sick in the street stuff. But
It's
I don't know. I'll skate maybe 2 times a week, maybe something like
I
that.
think that's
it's kind of funny. Like our sessions are like probably what your solo sessions are, but just a big group of us. We'll all have our own cameras on a tripod and we'll set up and be trying to get our own trick.
Yeah.
But then we'll interact though too and be like, oh, you should do this for your trick, or we'll help someone else film their trick, or Ryan will be filming for the video. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
Which
that's
brings up
funny.
Nathan's comment. Why is Cincinnati your favorite city? And could you give us your time frame for your relocation?
Yeah, bro. Come on.
I would love to. I think I would really flourish being able to skate with you guys every day.
I think so too. Trying to get as many people to move to Cincinnati as possible, but you in particular.
We're trying to get a bunch
Cincinnati,
of people moving.
I've been to Cleveland once. I really like Cleveland. I really like the Great Lakes, like that region. It's really cool up there, but I've never been to like the southern. More Cincinnati's like more south, right?
Yeah. Nathan has a good point. We have our spot. We have super crusty spots, man. They would be right up your alley.
Yeah, we do got the crust.
Yeah, it's true. I love seeing you guys street footage. We have a lot of the same terrain. I feel like, you know, lots of like weird loading docks and like crusty brick alleyways and
like a very industrial town kind of feel to it. Yeah,
definitely for sure.
Okay. Any other things we want to add?
I don't think I get anything. Well, I guess what are you working on now, Nathan?
Just another video project that should be done. There's like a slim chance I can finish filming it Saturday, but I don't want to rush it.
Yeah.
But it's very close. I've been working on it since November, and I'm excited about it. But you know, it's also been a bit of a battle, and I think I'll feel better about it once it's done. You know what I mean? Which isn't always the case, but
I just wanted to highlight Logan's comment there. Just move into my dining room. I don't use it.
Yeah, we got space. Yeah, this is true. We got space for skaters. We can make it happen.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to
people should be subscribing. People should be subscribing to Nathan on YouTube. He only has 69 subscribers, which is nice, but need more. I think he deserves way more than 69.
Yeah, there you go, bro.
I believe you got one during the stream.
Yeah.
I would definitely give him a subscribe and follow him on the Instagram, NCB Inline, I believe. Let me put it back up here.
Sure.
NCB Inline. And also he has some videos on Vimeo. So yeah, definitely if you're looking for some variety and looking for like a kind of breath of fresh air of
Yeah,
things that you
definitely.
normally
That's
wouldn't
how I
see, and
describe it.
definitely spot utilization, I would say, check out Nathan and all of his aspects, because you're gonna find something that's interesting. Like it's impossible to watch and find something that's not interesting and not something that you could translate to your own skating.
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah, man, it was great. It was great finally talking to you. Like super.
Yeah, no, I
Super
really,
excited to do so, and like I said, you've got a really unique perspective. So yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you for sure.
yeah, likewise. I really appreciate you guys having me on. And I apologize for definitely just ranting for basically 2 straight hours. So.
That's the point of a podcast, I feel like. So you're right on the money.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's definitely been an honor to get on here and an absolute pleasure to talk with you guys, because I think we said it. I can't remember if it was before we actually started streaming, but like I said, I feel like you guys are like my extended Blade fam. So
Yeah, we feel the same.
Yeah,
Definitely
likewise.
so, for sure.
awesome.
All right, I'm bad at outros, so Ryan, you want to leave us with something? Throw us on you, man.
Nope, just nope, I got nothing.
All right, fantastic outro. I'm gonna cut this
Great way to
stream.
end it.
That's a fantastic way. All right. Don't forget to spay your pets and stuff. I don't know. Bye.
Yep, do that.